Thank you so much for being here. We're at the yoga studio at the Takeda booth today. I think it's one of the most impressive booths at the whole conference today. So I'm with Gab, who is the Chief Data and Technology Officer at Takeda. I would like you to just introduce yourself real quick for the camera.
Yeah, as you said, I'm leading data, digital and technology across the organization. Basically, I'm responsible not just to drive technology and lead technology, but also to enable the future growth of my company using data, digital and technology.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask you, broadly speaking, how has AI changed drug discovery as a whole? And specifically for you as well, how do you look at the whole acquisition process nowadays?
Yeah, actually, AI is changing completely the entire value chain. Of course, in drug discovery, but across the entire value chain. But I would like to say that it's changing how we operate in some unpredictable ways. It's not just automating tasks or sometimes removing tasks from the workflow, but it is actually forcing us to reimagine how we operate, how we rewire organization, teams, policies, ways of working around these global processes that are powered by AI as the new fabric that is connecting different parts of the organization. I have a way of saying that AI is not the magic wand. Whatever you touch, will become magically more intelligent and more automated. It's actually the magic mirror. It's showing all your imperfections, the imperfections of our company, processes that are broken, data that have poor quality, lack of accountability, weak in our talent pool, but also size and span of the organization. All these imperfections that exist before we implemented more AI, but now they are more visible. So I think who will really transform through AI will not just the one that will adopt the best model or implement more AI across the organization, but actually reimagine fundamentally how business operates and how we can deliver value for our customers.
For sure. I think there's a lot of different variabilities in terms of what's going into these decisions, what's ultimately the goal of each of these companies, but also where each of these companies are today, where it makes sense to make the investments according to the risks.
Absolutely. And we have an incredible dichotomy. We have an abundance of intelligence, but also scarcity of judgment and scarcity of trust. Mm-hmm. And I think, before adding more intelligence that is becoming more accessible because of AI, we need to look into how judgment and trust can be built in the organization to operate faster, right?
Right, absolutely. One of the examples I wanted to talk about was Takeda's acquisition in 2022 from Nimbus Technologies.
Zasocitinib?
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, looking back, has it really taught you anything about how involved Takeda wants to be with AI-discovered drugs, but whether it needs to be built in-house or whether it should come through acquisitions or a bit of both?
I think it's both, honestly. The important thing is that when we look into assets, we need now to figure out how to plug these assets in a new ecosystem. And a new ecosystem that is powered by AI in very different aspects. So it's not just acquire the assets and the capabilities, but actually how they fit into a new organization and new capabilities that we're building across the board. That's, I think, the evolution of BD opportunities and asset acquisitions, but also reimagining the future value because of that. Mm-hmm. And it's changing completely how we're thinking about opportunities like this. I think it's always an opportunity to build in-house capabilities that we need to run the business in long term and actually be ready for the future, and at the same time partner with strategic partners, right, to accelerate the adoption across the value chain.
Mm-hmm. But I have been watching just the progress of that drug, the recent head-to-head study with successful results. Very excited to see where that goes.
We are very excited, looking to the near future, but then we redesign the standard of care for many patients across the globe. So that's our mission, bringing such therapeutics and molecules as quick as possible to our patients to really impact their life.
For sure. You actually touched on something I wanted to cover, that standard of care that you just mentioned. How do you see that changing, with AI, and are there any areas that you think will benefit more than the others?
I think, AI is changing, is actually the personalization layer across the entire care path for our patients. It's really changing how we can diagnose illnesses, how we can personalize the administration, how we can provide better support during the patient services, but also how we can create better access, right, for different populations across the globe. So it will have a tremendous impact, and I think we have the responsibility to make that, with the right focus and support, and asking the right questions from a regulatory and compliance perspective.
Absolutely. And I know you have a busy day ahead of you. I have one more question before we head out. I wanted to ask you about the value chain. From your experiences, is there any areas from all the investments that Takeda has been putting in, from the AI point of view, from the data point of view, from the technology point of view, any areas of the value chain that are becoming more efficient or that are just being streamlined very fast?
Yeah, actually, as I mentioned, we are experiencing now tremendous value across the entire value chain. In research, we have seen actually the drug target identification process that normally takes 6 months now can be delivered in 2 weeks. The cycle time from preclinical to clinical now has been squeezed by 50%.
Right.
In manufacturing, the ability actually to interact with external partners, we have dedicated, actually trained colleagues just looking to identifying, the right documentation, the right information, manage the deviations, processes that took let's say weeks now can be squeezed in minutes, and I can continue right across the entire value chain. Those are tangible, let's say, examples, but it's not just looking to step by step. We need to look holistically on how AI will impact how we are operating as an organization overall, and actually removing the frictions among all these beautiful islands that we have across the organization.
Well, I'm personally very excited to continue seeing your journey and just all the progress that's happening in this front.
Thank you, Aman.
Right, thank you so
See you
much.
very soon. Thank
See
you.
you soon.